Good afternoon. I'm Larry Miller.
And I'm Allison Seymour. Coming up on the news at noon, an epic bridge collapse in Baltimore as the Francis Scott Key Bridge was brought down by a cargo ship.
We have crews on the ground with the latest details and what happens next. Michaela.
Hey there, Larry and Simone. Well, this morning we are going to continue to watch those clouds increase over, Allison, as we move into the afternoon. Temperatures right now sitting in the upper 40s to low 50s. I'll have a detailed look at your rainy forecast that we're seeing tomorrow and Thursday coming up.
Welcome to the news at noon, and we start this hour with breaking news from Baltimore. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, one of the busiest commuter routes in Maryland, destroyed.
This afternoon, concerns about the workers who were on that bridge, which serves around 35,000 commuters each and every day.
Good to see you this afternoon. I'm Larry Miller.
I'm Allison Seymour. Here are 3 things that you need to know about what was an horrific incident.
Yeah, we are expecting an update from the NTSB at 1 o'clock this afternoon. 6 people are still unaccounted for, and so far 5 vehicles have been found in the water. We have crews covering every angle of this disaster.
Let's start with Jacqueline Quinn now, who's at the northeast end of the bridge in Dundalk, Maryland, with the latest on what we know about this collapse. Jacqueline.
Yeah, the latest right now. This is still a search and rescue mission. But look, take a look behind me because this is a startling sight. This is a very tall bridge typically, but it's just simply not there at this time. And the latest update from the governor here, Wes Moore, about 2 hours ago is that every resource is being devoted to finding survivors in this collapse right now. Now, this happened around 1:30 this morning. There were 8 people working on the bridge that we've learned about. Some of them were found. One was taken to the hospital in serious condition, while another person somehow refused treatment and walked away, leaving just the 6 people now unaccounted for. Now, that number does not include anyone who may have been on this bridge driving or going over it. I asked if there was a Mayday call to the governor, and he said that the ship was able to send out a distress call, to which he said officials were able to respond and slow down the flow of traffic. But the ship was moving fast at 8 knots. Now, we can tell from the video that there were still a number of cars still driving as the ship was just about to hit the bridge. We just learned from the Baltimore City Fire Chief, though, that he says there are 5 vehicles, including 3 passenger cars marked by infrared and sonar technology. But let's listen in on what the governor had said about the work to find people trapped.
This morning, our state is in shock. And I want to take this moment to speak directly to the people of our state. To our first responders, I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of your courage. I'm in awe of your strength. I'm in awe of everything you do for each and every one of us. You saw a crisis and you said, what can I do to help? And our response teams are doing everything in our power to rescue and recover the victims of this collapse, literally as we speak.
Now, preliminary information from the governor and transportation secretary in the state here is that this was an accident, nothing to indicate that this was tied to an act of terrorism. Again, the governor says that the focus right now is on survivors, but he did talk about rebuilding this. He says he wants to do it in a way that will honor everyone that's impacted, and he has been in touch with the transportation secretary of the United States, and there's going to be another briefing here with NTSB at 1 p.m. to discuss some of the findings. We will be around and update you. For now, in Dundalk, I'm Jacqueline Quinn for WSA 9.
All right, we're still very much in the early part of this investigation, but as we have heard from officials there, while there is so much to sift through, the focus right now is on trying to find those that are still missing at this hour.
Right, just holding out any sort of hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A reminder that the NTSB could be holding a press conference at any minute or closer to 1 o'clock, we are told. As you can imagine, today's events hit hard in Baltimore as an estimated 35,000 people use that bridge every single day.
Let's head over now to Scott Broom. Scott is at a church talking with members of the community on Mount Olive Road in Baltimore.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, folks. This is the community that's closest to the foot of the bridge, literally at the end of the footers here at the bridge. It's called Turner Station here in Baltimore, and people said that they felt this like an earthquake last night. And because the bridge is such an iconic part of life here, the people are just stunned at what is going on. Take a listen to some of the people we talked to earlier today.
This morning, it was around 1:30. And I live right here off of New Pittsburgh Avenue, me and my 87-year-old mom. And the building has shook so severely. And it woke me up. I was scared, and I didn't know what was going on. I ran out to look to see what had happened because we had planes that fly across. I heard all the police and fire trucks and, people just racing down here on Bronan Highway, coming this way, but never to think that would happen, that the bridge had collapsed. I thought maybe it was just a major, terrible accident and everything. So later on, people started calling me. My phone was blowing up because they know this is the route I've been taking since 1982. I had worked for Avis Rent-A-Car since then, and then I was employed with the post office in 1989, working at the airport, Lithicum, Maryland, taking this bridge on a night shift for over 30-something years. And I'm in disbelief. It's just, it's just incomprehensive to even believe the bridge is gone, because this is
All right, you got a feel for how people feel here. That was Venetia Barbie we talked to earlier today. Almost everyone in this community is feeling the same kind of impact. And of course, they're all deeply concerned about the possibility of contractors and others who are missing and perhaps may not have survived this incident. There's a neighborhood church here called Mount Olive that's a short distance away from here. And people are beginning to gather around the church, and the pastor there says later in the day, probably around 5 o'clock this evening, he's going to hold some kind of service to acknowledge the tragedy here and the impact on this community here at the foot of the Key Bridge. Reporting live in Baltimore, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
Scott, thank you so much for that.
Now let's head on over to Melissa Kim. She's at the Royal Farms gas station on Holabird Avenue.
Melissa, you've been talking with people also who use this bridge every day.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. We've mobilized a little bit. We've been driving around the area, talking to commuters, talking to truck drivers in particular. We're now at Fort McHenry Park, where people usually come here to get iconic viewpoints of the Baltimore skyline. And you can see that the Key Bridge was part of that. And you can get the vantage point from here, just seeing how devastating this site is here. But again, talking to a lot of truck drivers and commuters today who use the Key Bridge every single day. Larry, as you mentioned at the top of the show, about 35,000 people use that bridge every day to get around on their commute. More than twice that use the bridges and the tunnels, the Harbor Tunnel and the Fort McHenry Tunnel, which we actually used the Fort McHenry Tunnel to get here. And traffic was moving at that point in time. But, obviously during rush hours, those numbers are quite doubled. So all the folks that are going to be trying to get home from work today will be using those tunnels as well as the Baltimore Beltway. But talked to a student actually this morning at the Royal Farms on Holabird Avenue, and he talked to me about his initial reaction and what he heard about this situation.
When I heard about that bridge falling down, I looked, and the first thing I thought about was like, what if that was me on my way to school? All them people dropped down there, drowning, and only thing I could think about is their family,
And I also spoke to a truck driver who's been doing this for about 30 years. He lives in Connecticut and was on his way south, through Baltimore as well. And he actually said he was sleeping in his truck at the gas station this morning when his wife called him to make sure that he was okay. And he told me that he's not going to take any more jobs, any more calls until they can figure out how the commute is going to go from now on, from getting from north to south, as well as, getting some answers as to where we go from here, which I'm sure we'll hear about in the coming days. For now, we're live at Fort McHenry Park here in Baltimore. I'm Melissa Kim. Back to you guys in the studio.
No doubt a lot of people have a lot of feelings about what they've seen over the past several hours now. This is no doubt impacting everyone. You're thinking about how this is affecting you and your families. You heard from people there that live nearby that this is something that they're now legitimately scared of moving forward.
It's traumatic.
It is, very much so.
It's traumatic.
So right now the focus is on the rescue and recovery operations.
But tens of thousands of drivers use this bridge every day, and Lindsay Nance shows us now that they'll be sharing alternate routes with everyone else.
Let's focus on how this will impact your commute tomorrow morning in Baltimore. If you have friends, family, loved ones in the area, or if you're planning a trip yourself, the Key Bridge or 695 is completely closed down in both directions, and this will remain closed down tomorrow morning. Avoid 695 or the Baltimore Beltway because we have a ton of closures in place. So if you're driving on the outer loop of the Beltway, you'll be detoured off the roadway at Route 10, that's exit 2. And if you're hopping on the the inner loop of the Beltway. You're going to be detoured off of the roadway at Route 157. That's exit 43. So if you're driving in from DC tomorrow morning, take 95 or I-97. And then once you get into Baltimore, you can either stay on 95 to cross the river, or you can take 895 if you are heading southbound. Lindsay Nance, WUSA 9.
Here are a few facts about the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. It took 5 years to build. It opened on March 23rd, 1977. Just had an anniversary. It was built 47 years ago. The 4-lane bridge is just over a mile and a half long, and it crosses the Patapsco River over the Baltimore Harbor. It's named, of course, for the author of our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner.
I want to bring in Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Flack right now. Eric, you have more insight on exactly where this cargo ship struck the bridge and how that played a pivotal role in its ultimate collapse.
Yeah, Larry, let's let people visualize this. This is a picture on Wikipedia of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Now, this is where kind of the shipping lane is, right through there. This is 1,200 feet across, so plenty of room, and it's successfully used constantly for these types of shipping routes. For whatever reason, and investigators will have to figure this out, when it lost power or veered off course, it ended up veering right into that pillar there, which is what brought that bridge down right on top of that cargo ship. Now, this is a marine traffic live look. It's a website that tracks ships in the on the rivers. This is that ship, cargo ship, right there under that collapsed bridge. To give you an idea of the disruption, if you go down the Patapsco River here, about 30 miles, you end up in the Chesapeake Bay, and look at all those ships. Those ships are just anchored there because their shipping route is now cut off. Still unclear what's going to happen there, but this is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge right there. Now these ships anchored, waiting to know what they're going to do as we continue to figure out what happened to take this ship off course and end up collapsing after it hit that pier right there.
Yeah, a pier that no doubt is a low-bearing pier, and you bring that down. Unfortunately, you have the whole collapse of the bridge there. Eric Flack, thank you so much. Stay with WC9 as we work to learn more about this breaking news. If you can scan right now the QR code on your screen to see all of our coverage online. You can also download the WC9 app to get breaking news alerts. And you can watch us live streaming coverage on WUSA 9 for Roku and Fire TV.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Well, we're continuing to watch the cloud cover increase for your Tuesday afternoon. You see it here on our data coming in from satellite and radar. Mostly cloudy skies will continue to be the pattern for the rest of your Tuesday. Here's the wet weather we're watching for tonight. It's going to continue to break up. It's still close to 200 miles away from our region, and it will lose steam as it gets closer to the DMV. So for the rest of your afternoon, expect mostly cloudy skies with just a few peaks of sunshine here and there. Temperatures today making it into the mid to upper 50s, just a touch below average for this time of year. Now we are going to see those rain chances increase tonight and into tomorrow as well. Coming up in just a few minutes, I'll have a full breakdown of Futurecast and show you where that rain's going to be, not only here in DC, but also where that rain will be in Baltimore for the next few days.
Michaela, thank you so much. We're staying on top of that breaking news in Baltimore, Maryland. Multiple people still unaccounted for after a cargo ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge. We're going to continue to stay on top of this story, and we'll bring you more after the break. Welcome back. There's still a lot about this tragedy in Baltimore that we have yet to learn, and we hope to learn more in the coming days. But that also means people can spread misinformation online.
Eric Flack has been verifying some claims that we've been seeing shared on social media. Flack.
Hey, these are claims that are being widely shared and sometimes even being questioned by the same people who are amplifying those statements. First, more than a million people have seen this tweet, which claims to show a different angle of the bridge collapse with an explosion too. But we've put the X over it because it's not real. Instead, it shows a bridge connecting Russia to Crimea that was attacked in 2022. We did a reverse image search and looked at news articles from that time. Here's that same video and more of the attack posted by Radio Free Europe a year and a half ago. So we can put this one in the false column. Another claim we're following right now, was this intentional or an act of terrorism? We've seen several people raise that question online, including former kickboxer Andrew Tate, who has 9 million followers on X. Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley spoke about that claim at a press conference this morning.
To go back to the question about the terrorism, there is absolutely no indication that there's any terrorism, that this was done on purpose. Our criminal intel is working with the FBI and other federal and state agencies to get all the intel that we have, but there's absolutely no indication that it was intentional.
So we can verify, no, the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse is not being investigated as an act of terrorism. Next, tens of thousands of people have seen a tweet asking if D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser responded to the news this morning by tweeting, "Oh no." So we went to her personal account on Twitter or X and we found her post from 5:18 this morning. And in fact, it says simply, "Oh no." She deleted it within the last 2 hours after she saw it and verified that she posted it. So we can say that this one is true. However, she did write another tweet from her official account as this situation continues to develop. Send us claims you're seeing so we can help separate fact from fiction for you. Guys, back to you.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Weather's going to play a big factor as the search and rescue continues in Baltimore. How's the weather looking here at home and even further up north?
Well, thankfully for the rest of the day today, it's mostly just going to be cloudy skies and a few scattered showers late tonight. Very, very isolated. Our rain chance does increase over the next couple of days. So we'll get to Futurecast in just a second. But let's get you ready for tonight. Not going to be too cold. Most of us falling into the 40s across the region, much warmer than where we've been the last several nights. I'm forecasting about 45 in D.C. As we head into tomorrow, gray and gloomy across the region, mostly cloudy skies. You'll need to have the umbrella as you walk out the door. Not necessarily a washout of a day, but you will notice off and on showers out there. Let me show you the next 3 days. Temperatures continue to fall. We'll be in those mid 50s between Wednesday and Thursday, and showers both of those days. So let me show you here on Futurecast what we're expecting to see. As we move into tonight, notice it's mostly just those clouds and then a couple stray showers move in. It's mainly going to be for your I-81 corridor, and by the time that rain gets to the D.C. region, it's going to start to break up. As you see here, Wednesday, early in the morning, mostly cloudy, and then heading into the morning during your commute time. This is 8 a.m. We are seeing light showers across the region with 1 or 2 pockets of moderate rainfall, not only for D.C., but also in the Baltimore region. Not only is that going to impact your normal traffic routes, but considering that tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a different drive heading into work, you are going to have to watch out for that rainfall. We'll continue with the showers all day on Wednesday, mainly for that I-95 corridor. They'll clear overnight for most of us, and then we'll bring around another chance for rain heading into your Thursday. Very light right now. It does look like we'll just see a few light sprinkles here and there, with the heaviest rainfall heading off towards the east. A quick peek at your 10-day temperature trend here. We're going to continue to stay in those 50s for the next couple of days, with 60s moving into the region as we head towards the rest of the week. Guys, we'll have a quick look at your 7-day coming up in just a few minutes.
On top of that, breaking news in Baltimore right now. An update after this quick break.
Welcome back in. We are staying on top of that breaking news out of Baltimore, where rescue operations are underway after the Key Bridge collapsed.
Yeah, our Matt Gregory is on the south side of the bridge. Matt, you've been talking with neighbors all morning long about the situation that's just been unfolding right in their own backyards.
Yeah, we're on the Curtis Bay section right here of the kind of the line of Anne Arundel County as well as Baltimore County. But this is the area where the search and rescue operations have been funneled through to get over here. We're not allowed to get any closer to Fort Armistead, which is just beyond the overpass over my shoulder. But this is what we saw this morning walking through a neighborhood. We found one a little bit south of here where we were able to get a good vantage point of the collapse of the Key Bridge. The total devastation described by the man we spoke to as an absolute disaster. There's no other way to describe it. This is a main artery for folks who live here, for commerce, for all these things, and not to mention the lives of the people who were either working on the bridge or passing over it when it collapsed. That's why everyone here is holding their breath to find out the latest about this. We spoke to a neighbor who actually saw the bridge, he heard it rather, and he gave us kind of from his point of view, having lived here for over 60 years, what he saw last night and how it's affected him. Listen.
Right behind me is the main shipping channel, and right behind me is also the where the Key Bridge was. So I could see it right from my bedroom, and around 1:30. whatever time it occurred, we felt the house shake. It almost felt like an earthquake. And then there was a rolling thunder. It lasted for a number of seconds, but it wasn't like a thunderstorm. Yeah. It just kept rolling and rolling.
All those search and rescue efforts for what he was describing underway now. Now, we didn't have time to feed in a soundbite that we just got a little bit ago, but there are workers here who have worked on the bridge, and they were telling us that they're worried about their coworkers right now, and so we're going to have that in later, but obviously very much shaken by what's happened. The one man we spoke to said he normally works this shift. It could have been him. You'll hear that coming up today on WSA9. But for now, in Curtis Bay, Maryland, I'm Matt Gregory. Back to you guys in the studio.
No doubt sobering details right there. 6 people still unaccounted for right now, and your heart just goes out to everyone impacted, because you think about the circumstance that they were in at the time that the bridge was struck and then eventually collapsed.
Doing something they've done, no doubt, hundreds of times. Yeah. At least.
And today being unfortunately different. And of course, our heart goes out to everyone that's been impacted. And we await now for authorities to give us an update on whether or not they've been able to find and locate the 6 people that are still unaccounted for at this hour. We've been following this breaking news for more than 10 hours now. The White House about to give us an update on that bridge collapse in Baltimore. President Joe Biden expected to speak at any moment from the White House. We will carry it live as soon as the president reaches the lectern.
We'll have more on the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse right after the break.
This is a WUSA 9 special report. I'm Simone D'Alba. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead. We're listening in on a press conference regarding the bridge collapse. We have the U.S. Coast Guard speaking right now.
From a brief statement from each of them on current updates. And after that, we'll be able to take a few questions, but we do need to keep it brief because we want to get these folks back to work. With that, I'd like to introduce Rear Admiral Shannon Gilreath.
Hey, good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of the first responders that have come out today to assist in looking for these individuals. We've had tremendous support across the state and county and city and federal enterprise. You've seen for yourself the helicopters flying over, the small boats that are out there, the Coast Guard cutter that's out there, the boats that go back and forth bringing people out on scene to search for these individuals. So thank you to this entire community for helping in that regard. Second, I want to say thank you to the community for the outpouring of support to those first responders, and in particular the outpouring of support and prayers and support for the families of the 6 individuals. So I would like to announce tonight that based on the length of time that we've gone in this search, the extensive search efforts that we've put into it, the water temperature, that at this point we do not believe that we're going to find any of these individuals still alive. And so this evening at about 7:30, we are going to suspend the active search and rescue efforts. Coast Guard's not going away. None of our partners are going away, but we're just going to transition to a different phase. And so I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Butler, please.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. To echo the Admiral's comments here, we really appreciate the support from the community. To all the first responders here, we appreciate your patience and allowing us to do the best job possible and get the information as it comes up. At this point, as the Admiral said, we're going away from the search and rescue portion to a recovery operation. The changing conditions out there have made it dangerous for the first responders, the divers in the water. We will still have surface ships out overnight. At 0600 hours tomorrow, we're hoping to put divers in the water and begin a more detailed search to do our very best to recover those 6 missing people.
Thank you. With that, we have time for just a few questions. We know there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered, and we do have time for just a few. So if we could take a few, please.
So do we think it's still just 6? There's talk of maybe other cars on the bridge?
All the information we have is it's 6 individuals.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Can you go into detail about how difficult this might be for the recovery phase of this now? Like, what kind of challenges are you up against?
Well, I'll start by saying I'm going to turn it over to the experts on diving. I'm not an expert on diving, but we've got very difficult water temperatures. You have structures from the bridge that are in the water that can move with the tides and currents. making that dangerous for divers and people in the water to actually try to do recovery. And we do not want to injure any of these first responders in this recovery effort. We absolutely want to be as safe as possible for everyone involved in this. And I'll let see Colonel Brown has anything he wants to add.
Can you go into specifics about what the search and rescue entailed? Like, were there scuba divers, or was everything above water, sonar, any sort of equipment that might have been utilized over the past 12 hours?
From the outset, we moved all those resources in with dive teams from various state, local, and county agencies. We also use sonar. We're doing our very best in some very difficult times and difficult conditions, which is why we're making that transition now. The last thing we want to do is put divers in the water with changing currents, low temperatures, very poor visibility, and so much metal and other unknown objects in the water. All it takes is one object to strike an individual, and all of a sudden we have a first responder trying to recover another first responder. I think at 0600 we'll find ourselves in a better position to understand the dynamics of what we're dealing with and to address the issue in a much safer manner.
Did the authorities have 6 IDs now, and have those victims each been contacted, those families I should say?
I can't speak on that. That's still in the investigative portion of this.
Can you speak to some of the difficulties in actually retrieving the remains? Have any remains been retrieved so far? We've also heard reports that there might be individuals trapped inside of vehicles, that there might be debris that has made it more challenging for FBI and other law enforcement to deploy.
All of that is unknown at this point, and as I said, we have to cease operations. We can't start again until we can assure the safety of those divers and the rescue personnel that are going to participate in this. If we look at how challenging it is at a simple motor vehicle crash to extract an individual, I'm sure we can all imagine how much harder it is to do it in inclement weather, when it's cold, under the water, with very limited to no visibility.
So just to clarify, no remains have been removed thus far by search and rescue teams, other than the 2 who were rescued and alive earlier?
That is correct.
So Colonel, you're confident then that no other vehicles made it onto that bridge before the collapse, or as it was collapsing, I should say?
Based upon the fact the original information that was provided, the Maryland Transportation Authority Police Department was able to shut down traffic. Is there the possibility that there was another vehicle on there other than those vehicles involved in the construction process? I think we all would have to understand, yes, that's a distinct possibility. As unfortunate as it may be, it's a distinct possibility. However, we don't have any information to support that at this point.
When you bring the divers out, do you have an idea of where these individuals are, if they were in cars or not, and do you know how long the recovery effort is going to take?
We do not know at this point. I'm sure as you've seen some of the aerial photos, there is a tremendous amount of debris in the water, from containers hanging off ships. We have to make sure those are shored up. We're going to work with structural engineers to help them understand how to navigate and address the challenges of having bridge structure in the water that may be sharp, that could puncture a suit, that could puncture an airline. All of these are things that we must take our time with.
Do you know where the victims are located?
This last question, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Where the victims are located in the water? Have you been able to find them yet, or if they're in cars or not?
At this point, we do not know where they are, but we intend to give it our best effort to help these families find closure.
How might inclement weather tomorrow impact the recovery efforts?
Very clearly it could, but we're going to do everything in our power to help these families find closure.
How stable has the boat been? How stable has the boat been?
Miss, how do I get their names, title, spelling? Does anybody have?
Folks, we're going to be establishing a unified command as well as a joint information center, and I know there's a lot of questions, and we're going to be providing that information where we will continue to provide updates.
We are just hearing a very somber update based on the length of time, the search efforts. The Coast Guard is saying that they do not believe any of the 6 victims are alive. They are presumed dead. They are suspending active search efforts. Again, just, really sad update to a story that we have been following all day. This has now become a recovery operation. At this point, the Coast Guard said there have been no remains recovered at this point, and they just don't want to jeopardize first responders' safety any further either, as they were noting the dangerous nature not only of the water, but of the wreckage seen down there. there at the bridge collapse. This is something we're going to continue to follow, and we'll bring you the very latest. This has been a WUSA 9 special report. Thank you for tuning in. We'll have much more for you tonight on WUSA 9 News at 11.